Hi, everyone. I am Tob Wanapane. I'm an equity member and an equity counselor. Welcome to the Actors Equity in Memoriam gathering. We are here to honor the lives of our union siblings that have passed on. I will start by reading the code of conduct that is read before every official equity gathering. Actors Equity Association is committed to providing a respectful environment free of discrimination and harassment, regardless of an individual's race, religion, color, sex, age, national origin, sexual orientation, disability, gender identity or expression, ancestry, pregnancy, or any other characteristic prohibited by law. Because the union expects participants in its activities, events, and meetings to respect one another and to recognize and value individual differences, Actors Equity Association will not tolerate discriminatory, harassing, disrespectful, or otherwise unacceptable behavior at any of its activities, events, or meetings. It adopts the following code of conduct and expects those that participate in any of its activities, events, or meetings to abide by it. In addition to the code of conduct, AEA has an anti-discrimination and anti-harassment policy complaint procedure, which covers the staff employees of the union. Along with the code of conduct, at these in memoriam gatherings, we like to set a tone of kindness. We are here to honor, celebrate, tell a fun anecdote. We are joined by members, friends, family members. Disparaging talk will just not be tolerated at this. We are here for kindness. Um, I'm not going to give you the whole history of the reading of the names, especially because I'm starting so late. But if you, in the member portal, there's an in memoriam section, and you can put remembrances for people in that section, and they're pretty wonderful. I got to write something lovely about my friend Gavin Creel. But if you go to that section of our portal, you can put little remembrances there that will be that for everyone to read, and they repeat and they appear in the Equity Monthly, and they're great. So today we have Maureen, we have Kim Titus, and we have James Williams reading the names with me today. And these are wonderful actors and humans with beautiful voices that it's such an honor to hear names read with these voices. I believe we are going to start with April and Maureen. Am I right, Maureen?
That's right. Member
Right.
losses in April.
Thank you.
Sean Barbara Allen. Tobias Anderson. Elaine Anderson. Braden Barbara Artis. Paula Joy Bellis. William Boswell. Jeannie Bowers. Michael Brindisi. William Cable. Ian W. Cadenhead. Naomi Collier. Sandra Dorsey. Emily Frankel. Mark Gaylord. Stephen Mo Anan. Jane B. Harris. Kathy Lee Hart. Beth Holland. William Hutchins. Evangeline Johns. Val Kilmer. Katie Kuroda. Thomas Lindsay. Lisbeth Nelson. Jay North. Priscilla Pointer. Ron Ritchell. James C. Scopolitis. Linda Segal. Joy Staton. Metz Suber. Robert Trieber. Mark Wagenhurst. Lynn Wood.
Thank you, Maureen. We will move on to May, which I will be reading. Michael L. Alemo. Denise Alexander. Cynthia J. Babler. Joe Dawn Baker. Kelly Britt. Ruth Buzzy. Louisa Cabot. Denise Dillard. Stephen Ehrenberg. Tana Elg. John Fahnenstock. Roderick Griffiths. Kathleen Hughes. Peter Kwong. Kevin Markham. Nona Pipes. Matthew Lloyd Silver. Shirley M. Simpson. Stam Stickler. Loretta Swit. Horacina J. Taylor. Jean Trevor. Pat Van Over. Jerome Weinstein. George R. Wendt. And former equity counselor David Westberg. We're going to go to Kim Titus with June now.
Neil Allen. Will Albert. Aki Alon. Barbara Alston. Diane Baffa. Jack Betts. Leo Bloom. Jean V. Carberry. Penny Carroll. Dick Corrigan. Former equity counselor Edie Cowan. Neil Crane. Sandra Darling. Judith Ann Davies. Marjorie Grainer. C.B. Gray. Jeffrey Griglack. Lynn Hamilton. Ina Hartman. Joe Horvath. Former equity counselor Thomas Joyce. Joyce Langford. Valerie J. Mahaffey. Tom McCarthy. Martha McFarland. Beans Morocco. Gerard E. Moses. Jeff Ochin. Diana O. Gary Reinecke. Pippa Scott. Jack Starkey. Renee Victor. Mary Catherine Wilson. Carol J. Woodbury. Harris Hewlin.
And now we'll wrap up with July. James Williams III, please.
Gerald E. Ambinder. James Baldassar. Rachel Bard. William Henry Bassett. Bob Basso. J. Bell. Dennis Black. Gail Bowman. Patrick Boyington. Robert Bruce Brakey, Richard Bunn, Jeff Calloway, Mark A. Caputo, Luz Castanos, Jeff Chambers, Brent Christensen, Malcolm H. Cohen, David Allen Combs, Richard W. Cox, Fergus Curie, Richard Queiler, Sandra De Bruin, Frank DeLisi, Jerome E. Dixon, Doug Dudley, Gretchen Evans, Bob Fallon, Laura Fallon, Daniel pardon me, Daniel Feraldo, Deborah Fizell, Harvey Flaxman, William Fleck, George Paul Fortuna, Colleen Cox, Eileen Fulton, Bathsheba Garnett, Glenn W. Geweiler, Fran Gelatli, Cindy Geller, Salvatore Giordano, Robert B. Gould, Paul Greeno, Grace Grote, Daniel Halleck, Jess Hanks, David Harshide, Jeff Hill, John Hofmeister, Robert Keel, Ellen Kelly, K. Elise Kleinerman, Kenneth H. Knowles, John Lefevre, Ray Lepore, Paul Libben, Judith Lindstead, Phil Lipman, Angela Lloyd, Jerry Long, James S. Lucas Jr., Scott Lynch Giddings, Tom Malley, Jonathan Marks, Jared Matsky, Michael S. McHale, James Meenan, Cheryl Moria, Jack Morris, Craig Richard Nelson, Nancy Nutter, Joyce Hiller Piven, Mark Prinsky, Barbara Quinn, Nick Rowell, Lorna Raver, Jacqueline Riley, David Roya, Nancy Russell Tutty, Beth Sachs, Paul Henry Schroeder, John Parker Sears, William C. Siegel, Jean Cipher, Gedeth Smith, John Michael Snow, Harvey Solin, Randy Solorio, Valerie Stanek, Lauren Taylor, Charles Traeger, Joy D. Vieira, Wade Wallace, Malcolm Jamal Warner, Janice Wayne, Sam Zapp, David Zerlin.
Thank you so much.
And thank you especially to James, who had all of the tricky names, it seems, today. And I feel like I can make a joke about that because I have a very tricky name myself. So now we have about a half an hour left to make a remembrance or just say how much somebody meant to you. And I don't have anyone very close to me in this group, but sometimes I hear a name and I'm just so proud that I'm a part of an organization that these people were a part of. People that I grew up adoring, that I saw on stage numerous times, stage managers that I had admired. So we have half an hour to talk. So if you want to use the raise your hand feature, which is under the react button at the bottom, it's the little heart. And if you don't know how to do that, just turn your camera on and wave to me and I'll call on you. There's not that many of us. It shouldn't be that hard. But James, talk to us.
First of all, I thank you for being patient with me because I did have some tricky names. Um, and please attribute it to just me not knowing. I want to speak about, oh boy, now I'm feeling bad because the name just went out of my head. So yes, this is real. Michael Brindisi. Michael Brindisi was an equity member and the artistic director of Chanhassen Dinner Theater in Chanhassen, Minnesota. Michael was a very special man to me as a producer. He hired me to play Starbuck in The Rainmaker. And I was the only person of color who auditioned over the 2-day period. And later on, we were doing an interview after the show was open. We were talking about it. And I said, I said, I went out because this was when auditions were still listed in the want ads. And something just moved me to go because I loved the movie all my life. And I read, and I didn't think he was going to hire me. And he hired me, and then afterwards during the interview, someone asked, "Why did he hire me?" And he said, "I was faced with a decision. Was I going to yield to what I thought my clientele wanted, or was I going to hire the best actor there that day?" And he hired me, and we never talked about it until that moment in the interview. And it gave me a faith in this business of the people that we deal with that I think is just important to bring up in the climate that we are in right now. There are many of us who do all of these things that we do for the right reasons, and I just think that should be brought forward.
Thank you, James. That's beautiful. Margot, talk to us.
Hi. Sorry. I'm way on the West Coast visiting my aunt, so forgive me for that. I just wanted to say, number one, thank you so much again for doing this. It brings such a wonderful closure um, to those that we did know and those that we don't know. And seeing names like Ruth Buzzy and Val Kilmer, who I grew up with, and respecting and honoring and having them shape my career is so heartwarming and touching and difficult. But I am going to talk about Gene Safer, who was a technical director at Actors Playhouse in Miracle Theater in Coral Gables. And he literally, I met him when I was a teenager. He was one of the sweetest kindest, joyful people you would ever meet. And you'd think in a technical director, rough, but he was a marshmallow. To see what he went through in the last days of his life, to not be able to be at his memorial um, in person because I was on the West Coast visiting my aunt. This is so important to me for closure for me. So I thank you. Gene, rest in peace. He was so kind and did so much as a one man with a couple of people behind him. He was just amazing. So thank you again. Thanks.
Thanks, Margot. CJ. Here, let's see if we can do this.
You need
You're
to
still
unmute.
muted.
You're
Chris,
muted.
I think if you ask, oh, she's got it.
Yeah,
She's got it.
it was off screen. It was out of the frame. Thank you. This is a lovely opportunity, especially for some of us where we've had a loved one pass quite recently, and it's all pretty darn raw. And my husband of 35 years and also equity member, David May, passed away last month, July 19th this year. In fact, Kim Titus knows because he was directing the project that we were both working on at the time. So I kind of kept mum, except for Kim. He was kind enough to hold my confidence, so we didn't upset the apple cart with a lot of young people trying to make a joyful, fun, original show, kind of a tough road to with what had happened. So I just want to say a couple of things about David and kind of our equity journey. We started in different parts of the coast, but we were both in productions of the Rocky Horror Show, kind of sort of cementing our outsider status. And he was comfortable from a very slender, booming voice Tevye to Riff Raff to Groucho, and kind of and rounding out his more mature career as a writer with ace voices from everything from Hank Hill to a very good Tim Gunn from Project Runway. He was a very funny guy, mocking, painfully true. I'll always remember what he said about a superior at Disney, where we were writers for many years, who had a Scottish sounding last name. He said, "Oh, so you're Scottish, so you like to drink, but you don't like to pay for it." And he would just be that kind of person that, like, wow, you weren't expecting that to kind of sort of nail you. Referred to his own mother, who was super high maintenance as a demon toddler, just kind of a wicked sense of humor, and will be much, much missed. So just wanted to be able to pay tribute to his talents on stage as a singer, as a comic wit, and kind of a little bit unpredictable man. And once upon a time cabaret partner and lifetime spouse. So I'm sad to have to add him to this name just verbally. I didn't really know that you do this online ahead of time. That's lovely. But I'm grateful for people listening and an opportunity to share and to pay tribute for a lovely, lovely person. Left us much too soon, much too soon.
Thank you, CJ. I'm so sorry for your loss, but thank
Thank
you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
Nancy Daly.
I should not be trusted with tech. I am now, no, it is not, we do not, we have a very mixed, relationship. I would like to talk about Valerie Mahaffey and Peter Kwong. Valerie, I mean, I've adored her all her career. I just watch her in all sorts of settings, and I'm just, amazed by her and enthralled by her work. And I had the supreme honor of actually working with her on a staged reading at my church in Beverly Hills. And we had Valerie, we had all these amazing actors, Claire Danes, to come in and do a reading of Our Town, and Bess Armstrong directed it. And of course, these are all the members of the cast, Tom Irwin, a bunch of them. They're all these big, names in TV and film, but you bring them in to do a theater, and it was like, everybody was so excited to be working with each other, to be, doing this incredible play. And what I loved about Valerie is even Bess was kind of joking because every time we came in for a rehearsal, Valerie, I have a number of questions. And Bess would go, there's always one. but, but it was lovely because it just showed how dedicated she was, because she wanted to, we wanted to really have a fully realized reading of this play. She was a joy to work with, obviously a brilliant actress, but also a lovely and gracious lady. And I know that, the world is a bit dimmer without her light, because she was a light. Peter Kwong. Oh, this one hurts. I know him mostly from working with him, of course, with what is now SAG-AFTRA, Legacy AFTRA, and he was such a tremendous leader in every way. He knew that he was a very busy working actor, and he represented the Asian American community. He was constantly fighting for them, constantly representing them. There was no such thing as no in Peter's world when it came to representing the people that he fought for and believed in. And he was right there with me when I founded my Actors and Artists Unite to End Alzheimer's team in 2011. Because, I had to get the approval of the AFTRA National Board, and I had to get the approval of Screen Actors Guild that they would, support it. And there was Peter just just sort of basically pushing through any possible resistance, because this was going to be at the time a tri-union team. That was how we felt about it, because we had literally, and I talked about this at the Patrick Quinn Award ceremony, Actors and Artists Unite started because of members of Actors Equity. Maureen was there. She heard me talk about it. It was Francis Jew and Madeline Fallon and Tom Miller and Doug Carfrey. And Peter heard about this, and he was like, I'm going to be your biggest cheerleader. And if there was anybody going resistance, he said, we have a team. We have this tri-union team. This is the first tri-union team. It is going forward. Everybody just backed off. But he was a man of such great dedication, such integrity. And I know, because we talked about it many times, I was on council, and he would sort of corner me at meetings going, okay, what's going on? And he was so very, very proud of his heritage. He worked at, East West Players so many times I can't count. But he was a good man, a great leader, a brilliant actor. And no one could believe that he had passed, because we all, he was such a force of nature. It took me several times. Are you sure it's the same one? He can't be gone, because he meant so much to so many people. So I am forever grateful for knowing both of them. And there is the biggest, party up in the Sardi's in the sky right now. And I know that those two are just being embraced and hugged by everyone. So I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to talk about both Peter and Valerie today, because each in their own way meant the world to me as an artist and as a human being and as a friend. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Nancy. That was beautiful. Maureen, come on in here.
Thank you. Thank you. And my condolences to CT. So though I never worked with her, Beth Howland. Now I'm hoping I've got the right one. She was in the original company. Does anyone know?
That's correct.
But the name in our list was Beth Holland. So let me look up when Beth Howland
Because
passed,
I don't
if
want
she's
to put
passed.
her in the grave before her time.
Well, Beth Howland, it seems, passed away in 2015.
Oh, well, I
So
missed.
Beth Holland, hey, say something nice about her. That's okay.
Oh, well, I will be thinking great things, but I won't take time today from other people who want to remember someone. Thank you.
Michael.
Hey, thank you. Um, I met Mary Catherine Wilson in 2010 at a playwrights group. We were actors who were just, volunteering our time to help playwrights hear their words. I had been away from this playwrights group for a while, and so she was one of the new people. And that first night, I kind of hung back, just kind of checking out who was who and how the scene had changed. And at the end of the night, I went up to Mary and I said, "You and I are the most talented actors in this room. We should work together." Later on, I asked her what she thought of that, what her first impression was, and she said, "I thought you were an arrogant prick." She and I worked together for years after that in various plays. Whenever I worked with her, I was astonished by her. She was transparent. You couldn't see her. You could only see the character revealed through her. Professionalism kind of waned, and affection warmed up, and we ended up becoming partners, and we lived together for a few years. About a year and a half, almost 2 years ago now, she married me. Foolish mistake, but she insisted. 691 days before she died, she was diagnosed with stage 4 liver cancer. She fought so hard. She fought as hard as anyone could from what we knew was a hopeless cause. And I agonized and grieved, and I still do, over the world losing such an immense unknown talent. Because she wasn't just an actor, of course, she produced, she encouraged, she coached. She was also a prop artisan for Prop Star, and she worked at Sarah Timberlake Studios. She sewed costumes, created wardrobe, created props that were astonishing. I saw one that she did in a Broadway show once, and when I saw her afterwards, I was like, "How did you do that? That was incredible." So she was so talented across so many different fields that to lose her, I mean, I kept saying to the hospice nurses, "You don't know what a blow this is to the world to have lost this person." And I've had it confirmed over and over again. Of course, every time I've talked to someone who knew her, they're like, "Mary Wilson, oh, she was the nicest person I'd ever met. How is it possible that she's gone?" So we're all trying to make sense of it now. It's very hard to try to make sense of it. I think best maybe that we don't try to make sense of it. I would like to read one thing Arthur Miller wrote. It's probably been read on this call before by someone, but it really hits the nail on the head as far as Mary is concerned. There is a certain immortality involved in theater, not created by monuments and books, but through the knowledge an actor keeps to his dying day that on a certain afternoon in an empty and dusty theater, he cast a shadow of a being that was not himself, but the distillation of all he had ever observed, all the unsingable heart song that the ordinary man may feel, but never utter, he gave voice to. And by that, he somehow joins the ages. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. I'm so sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Oh, I feel so grateful that to be a part of a community where people will come in and so open-heartedly just speak. And because so many of us are actors, we speak very beautifully. I'm just gonna take some moments to talk about people that have inspired me. Ruth Buzzy, when I was a kid, those Laughing reruns are on Nick at Night. And I mean, who's funnier than Ruth Buzzy? And then what a joy for her to transition onto Sesame Street. And like, because she always had, even when she was doing dirty jokes on Laughing, she had a childlike sort of play to her. Tana Elg, that I still don't know if I'm saying her name right, but I know from being in love with the cast album of Nine. She was Guido's mom in Nine. She was also in like Where's Charlie? And I know those things because I'm a nerd. But like that's a voice that lives in my head. Loretta Swit, come on. Speaking of a voice that lives in our heads from MASH and like possibly the coolest speaking voice that ever existed. Harris Yulin, who I saw in a lot of shows. I saw in The Diary of Anne Frank, I saw in The Price, and someone that worked a lot in TV and film, but always came back to the theater, which I mean, we're all theater people. We know why people are drawn back to the theater, but I think it means a lot when someone is making their money on the big screen. And finally, I think my first gay crush was on Malcolm Jamal Warner, and he passed away in such a tragic way, somewhat recently. And but you know, Theo Huxtable forever. Thank you so much. Would anybody else like to say anything else before we end this call? Maureen. Oh, hey, Jonathan, come on in. What's up?
I'm on my phone and I don't know how to raise your hand on your phone, so I had to do
That's
it
okay.
for real. First, condolences to Michael and CJ. Thank you for sharing your partners with us. CJ, I know and worked
Yay.
with many years ago, though I
Yeah.
don't think I ever met David. So thank you for telling us about him.
Thank you.
I just wanted to share a few remembrances of Stephen Mohannan, who I first worked with in 1985 at the Guthrie Theater. We did Anything Goes together, and it was still one of my first jobs. I was a dancer, and he played Moonface. But I had seen him in Pirates of Penzance in the park and on Broadway, and seen him. He originated Gus Growl Tiger and Cats. So for me, I was starstruck to have the opportunity to work with him. And Steve was just an enormous personality, and you could tell from his performances on stage. But he was a delightful man with wonderful stories. He just one day during rehearsal, he sketched a caricature of me, which I still have, which I treasure. And after we did the show, he had me over to his apartment here in the city, and on the wall was the Hirschfeld of him and Cats, and that always having been like a dream of mine to have a Hirschfeld, and that was not something I realized, but that he had that was such a beautiful thing. I saw him years later in production of Forum down in Florida, in which Margot Moreland also was in, and he was wonderful in that, and we had a lovely lunch. And then, almost 30 years after we first worked together, we did a show for the Volksbühne Yiddish Theater. We did the Megillah of Itzik Monger, which is the Megillah is the telling of the Book of Esther, and it was so joyous to reunite, and finally me as an adult or an old man, and he was only a slightly older man. He was so young at heart. And Steve was such a hippie. He kind of got his start in San Francisco. He would play his concertina and sing on the ferry to Sausalito, and that's how people kind of like encouraged him, like, you got to do this professionally. And he often would play his concertina in shows because it was something he could do. And he at one point, when he was living here in the city, he was living basically, it was a commune in the village, because it was just the kind of thing that suited him so perfectly. But anyway, he was a lovely, lovely man. And I just wanted to remember him for you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. And If you can't figure out how to raise your hand, just turn your camera on. Or if you can't even figure out how to turn your camera on, just say, hey, Todd, I want to talk. And you can talk. We don't have to be fancy here. Maureen.
Thank you. And I want to ask if this is the right person before I start. Paul Libin. Are we talking about Paul Libin, the producer from Circle in the Square?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. Paul Libin was the creative director and ran everything at Circle in the Square. He was a very, very tough negotiator, but he was also a trustee of Pension and Health. And at one meeting, he said, if you're an actor or a stage manager and you injure yourself, I don't care how you get to a theater, the theater you're working at. I don't care if you have to crawl there. Whatever you have to do, get inside the theater and say you injured yourself there so you can get workers' comp if you need it to make an injury report. I thought that shows he loves actors and stage managers. He became a whole different character for me after that.
And just so I can say, Maureen, Beth Holland, who passed, I looked her up. It seems that Beth Holland was the New York president of AFTRA for a little bit. So let's give our love to Beth Holland, as well as the brilliant Beth Howland, who passed away about 10 years ago. Yeah. Anybody else? Anybody want to shout anything out?
I have a
CJ,
question.
come back in here.
Thank you.
Come
Thank
on
you.
in.
I was very touched, Michael, by, the passionate partnership you shared with, just wow. But I did want to ask that because this was so, oh, look, I just saw this and kind of jumped in. I didn't really prepare maybe something that David had written, something short and pithy. Were we to join you in a following one? Would we be able to share that as well? Something, that we didn't have prepared today?
Yes, of course.
Oh, okay,
This
nice.
is very loose.
Okay.
If you have come in and something lovely to say, let's say something lovely,
Okay.
right?
Right. And is it like every 3 months? I mean, I noticed you did a series of months. Is it kind of so
Yeah,
often?
we try to do it quarterly.
Okay.
Right now, we've been doing we had a little catching up to do, so we were at 4 months, doing
Okay.
4 months, but we try to do 3 months at a time, and sometimes we do four. And
Okay.
sometime that fourth month is James Williams reading all of the names
Okay.
as it
So
was
maybe one more
today.
time before the end of the year.
Oh, yes, that would be the plan. We
Okay.
will probably meet again in November or December, and it's
Nice.
always goes out in the Equity Weekly emails.
Okay.
And it's if you want to check the In Memoriam section, it's always posted there too.
Oh, lovely. Well, thank you,
Great.
everyone, to participate and the readers, yay. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, everyone. Well, that brings us to the end of our gathering. We are still, we're going to attempt to do an in-person one soon. Anyone will be able to join from Zoom, of course, but we're going to try and do one from the council room in New York.
Oh, nice.
And so we can feel each other's energies there too. But that brings us to the end. If you have any constructive advice on how we can do this better, feel free to email me. Chris, you might have a slide that has my email on it. Oh, Chris is on it. Thank you, Chris Bennett. So you can email me at my crazy email address if you have any ideas to help make us do this better. I love this. I love doing this. I feel so inspired. I feel so moved. I thank you for being here, and we will see you in about 3 to 4 months. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, and thank you for sharing with us.